Greetings, red tie community. It's the bald guy in the red tie, John Butler, your favorite bald-headed, red tie wearing, red tie community show host. And I'm here with some very special human beings. And I generally mean that because what's beautiful about the red tie community is that it's about having people come together. And I've come to the place in my life where the most important things are relationships and experiences, right? And that's what makes up the red tie community. So for you guys to be on the show, which we've known each other, Miss Shannon, for over 10 years.
It's crazy.
It went by fast.
Yeah, real fast.
Yeah. So welcome to the show, Shannon.
Thank you.
And who's this handsome devil next to you?
This is my handsome husband, Christopher Blalock.
Who has his own stories that we're going to get into here. And you have your own stories, and then we're going to tie the stories together because that's the joy of the Red Tie Community Show. Are you ready?
Okay.
Sounds good.
All right, so I met Miss Shannon here probably about 10 years ago, getting into real estate.
Yes.
And you bought a home at the bottom of the market, so congratulations.
Thank you for selling that to me. It was the very bottom. It was perfect timing.
If you've been looking in real estate in the Temecula, Marietta area, you know that homes are like $400,000, $500,000, $600,000, up to $1 million, and you got yours for less than $200,000.
Yes.
I'd say that was a win.
Oh, totally. Absolutely.
It offsets my loss. But that's great.
It's balance, right?
It's a balance
Is
somewhere.
that what we achieve in life?
Yeah.
And so with you, I think we sold your house in, 2012?
Yeah, about
Somewhere
2012.
So
A
we had to
short
do
sale.
a short sale situation. And I remember it was literally at the end of the year. And I think this was right when that provision was going to be lifted where the forgiveness of the short sale debt and stuff
Right.
like that.
Right.
But they were threatening on ending that. I remember on New Year's Eve, we didn't have the approval yet. And we're just stressing about it. Because all the banks are shut down for the holidays and whatnot.
Crunch
Oh, that was a
time.
great time. Great time. I remember every minute of it. I can't tell you how great it was.
It was joyful experiences.
So great.
I remember meeting you for the first time because I already knew Shannon, and she's like, "Oh, you need to come talk to my man here because he needs to do a short sale." And so people understand, Chris, he's had a 20-year career in the military.
Just be at 21 here this October.
21. So as you know, with Marines, they have the 1,000-yard stare. So when I was doing the listing appointment, I'm all trying to explain what a short sale is, and you're just staring into my soul the entire time. I was like, freaked me out.
Really, I was just listening. So.
Intently. I was like, okay, if I don't sell his house and if I screw up, he can kill me with his thumb.
I don't know about that. I'm an artillery guy, so
You blow me up with something.
you wouldn't see it coming. So that's
This
good.
is true. So how did you guys get set up and meet? Because this is a beautiful story.
So we were both single parents for a little while, and we were both on Match.com because when you're a single parent of young children, going out is not much of an option.
Right.
So we were one of those couples. He sent me a message on Match, and I said, no
She denied
way.
it. She never responded.
I'm not
Plain
going
hard
to
to
deal
get.
with military. He's going to be gone all the time. Nope. Didn't even answer. And then I went on a medical mission to Haiti right after the earthquake. And it changed my perspective on just life and family and just the importance of having people. And in the airport on the way home, I got a second try from this guy. And I thought, okay.
Pretty much just asking, just coffee. We're not looking for anything
No
beyond that right now.
pressure.
Just a cup of coffee.
Easy close, yeah.
Yeah. So I said yes, and that was it from then on.
Well,
And she showed
maybe.
up in full tilt, right? Like she was dolled up to the nines.
Oh.
over
Oh,
here.
no. So you know the rest of this story.
Yeah, but the audience does.
Okay. So the rest of the story is actually pretty funny, right? So she agreed to meet me for coffee. This is, for those of you in the local area, there used to be a Starbucks right next to Stater Brothers. Now it's like some health food store or whatever. But that's where we met up for the first time. It was probably one of the only rainy days that year. Of course, it had to be a rainy day. I showed up dressed, very nice.
Of course.
I would say she showed up dressed not much different than what she's wearing right now,
I was
except
just
she's wearing a
gonna say
sweatshirt.
it's kind of the same thing we're doing right now.
And her cousin and a bunch of people were waiting for her at the house. So she had her out. The
I
minute
gotta
she
get
walked
back,
in the
sorry.
door, she had the immediate out, and then
I
she walked
gave-
through the door.
I gave him 30 minutes. I
Yeah.
told him, okay, I'll meet you for coffee, but I have somewhere to be. I have 30 minutes. That way I
That's
could
smart.
get
Because
out if I wasn't
In
feeling
hindsight,
it.
that was all a lie, but that's fine.
It was, but I needed to be able to get out and, not uncomfortably
Yeah.
so.
So
it
she
was
had a
good.
pretty good exit strategy, which I could admire. Being a Marine, you got to have a good exit strategy. And so I had looked down and I said, okay, well, I guess our 30 minutes is up.
And I didn't want to go yet. I was like, oh,
Ooh,
why
you
did
called
I
her
give him
bluff.
those 30 minutes? Because I didn't want to leave yet. But then I couldn't.
Was
say,
there an
"Well,
instant
really."
attraction between you guys?
Oh, yeah. I
Yeah,
think so.
our conversation was incredible.
awesome.
It just flowed. It was just really nice.
But we had talked
Yeah.
on the phone a few times well before we met.
So it wasn't like a cold first
No,
date.
no. We'd exchanged phone calls and talked a few times. So we knew a little bit about each other going into the meeting the first time, and we both understood. With kids, all kids, elementary school at that time, it was just difficult.
Yeah, we knew we were going to be blending 3 little kids together and a lot of adjustments
Yeah.
and stuff. Couple dogs.
Yeah.
So how many kids do you have?
So I have one,
One. That's Peyton.
Peyton, yeah,
Okay.
who just graduated high school.
Mine's just getting into high school, so that 10 years flew by fast.
So fast.
Yeah, because when I met her, she was probably like 8 or 9
She
years
was
old.
so little,
Yeah.
yeah.
And then, so how many kids do you have?
I have 2 daughters.
Okay.
I have one who just finished her freshman year of high school, and the other one's going into 8th grade.
So you poor man, a house full of women.
Oh, well, yeah. Up until a few months ago, even the dogs were all women. So I finally got a boy dog in the house. So
Yeah.
I'm not quite alone. But
Maybe that's a testament to like just how macho you are. Like you just you can handle that much.
probably not.
No.
No, he just deploys. He's like, I'll go.
Yeah. I've been gone for 9 months.
You stay.
So let's talk about that because we're here in Southern California, so we have a lot of military families, and that's a hard life. Like I've had family and I've had clients where they're trying to buy a house and somebody's in Okinawa or whatever it might be. So had you ever experienced anything like that before in a relationship where?
No.
So
No.
kind of walk us through how that worked out. Like how'd that conversation go when you get your orders, right? Like you can't say no.
Well, I would say that the first time it happened, we weren't even married yet. We'd only been dating for 5 months.
Mm.
And I was given orders to go to Afghanistan for a year. And, then it was like, well, what do we do next? And
I know exactly where we were when you told me. We were sitting in the backyard, and he walked back there, and he said, I got to tell you something. I'm being sent out. I got to go. And we hadn't been together for very long. And all I kept thinking was, I waited 7 years of being single and dating and to find the right guy. And so I really felt like I found him. So I said, I'll wait till you get back.
and I knew she would because she took my dog.
And then he asked if I could watch the dog, who then became my dog real
Yeah,
quick.
it became her dog real quick.
And so that was rough. And then it was really, we get along really well with the other parents. We have a pretty remarkable modern family, I'd say. And so the girls' mom would let me take the girls just so that we could build a relationship and kind of really get to know each other, which was actually in hindsight probably a blessing because we got to know each other without any interference. It was just the girls and I, and it was a great time for Peyton to bond with them too. So it was really actually probably pretty special that we had that time alone, but it was a long deployment. It was rough.
Well, and to back up one more time. So I got my orders after 5 months of dating. I had to go to Camp Lejeune at the end of July to do some final prep work before I went over to Afghanistan. And then I left in August. But the job I was in required me to come back to D.C. for some meetings in September. And so at that time, once I had more definitive plan, I'm like, well, why don't you fly out and meet me in D.C. in the fall? I mean, it's a beautiful time to be in D.C.
That's true.
And that's when I proposed to her. Because
Ooh,
she
so
had
there's
stuck around, and she had taken my dog. So I figured, well,
I about had heart failure because we hadn't been together that long.
Well, yeah, was this about
And
6,
I
7
was-
months at this point?
it had
Yeah.
been about 8 months at that time.
Yeah, not very long.
But really only 5 months actually in person.
Right.
So I'd been gone for 2 months by then.
I was totally caught off guard.
Did you have to think about it, or did you like, I'll get back to you,
No,
or
well,
did you say yes right
I
away?
was processing really, really fast, trying to figure it out. And again, I just told myself, you're waiting for him for this year for a reason, So I said yes. I just knew it was right. I was a little nervous because that was fast and unexpected. I was not prepared, but I knew. So yeah.
And I still had 9 more months to go on my time in Afghanistan, so there was plenty of time
for her to
walk
back
away.
out or what.
And that's when I called you and said we need to sell his house because he's moving in and we're getting married. And that's how the trio began.
Yeah. Well, about once a year, you guys will call me up like, "Hey, John, we found the perfect house. This
So
is
that's
it."
really her. She's like, "Oh, I found this house." Or her friend will say, "We're gonna move, and we're looking at houses out there. Oh, let me look for you." And then she starts looking at houses like, "Oh my God, this house is amazing."
Yep.
And then I'm like, "Are you gonna bug John again? Seriously? Come on."
You're so patient with me.
Well, and that's what I tell my clients though, is that for me it's about the relationships. It's not about the transaction. I don't care if we buy a house or sell a house this year, next year, or 5 years from now, because hopefully I'll be around for a long time, right?
Right.
But it's the relationships of what we've built over these years and seeing these homes and, seeing how the kids are growing this much. It's like,
yeah.
And that's what the red tie community is all about.
That's right. We're part of it.
So, so I'll get a call next year and I'm ready.
You will.
Go look at some houses.
Probably about the
For
same time.
sure.
Probably about that time. Maybe not in the state of California, but you'll get a call.
Yeah, you might have to
You
branch
hit
out.
something there. I have so many people coming and going, or actually going out of California. They're going to Idaho's a big one right now. Arizona, just in the past year, I've sent 5 people that way.
Yeah.
So just so you know, I do have connections out there. I'll get you connected with an agent. Maybe not as handsome as I am. But
And not wearing a red
not.
tie.
not wearing
No
a red
red
tie.
tie. Perhaps bald.
Yeah, that seems to be the hairstyle. Which you, sir, have a nice hairstyle. So
Well, yeah,
This is
it's
the
grown
military
back
cut.
in nicely, and a little product makes it look a little bit more fuller than it probably really is.
We had
Well-
the product conversation.
yeah, what? Not enough or too much?
Yeah, not
Not
enough.
enough.
Throw some
Not
in
enough.
there.
Yeah.
She got tired of me flipping the hair out of my face, so
Well, and I think you kind of hit an iceberg there as far as you had some very short hair for a while, and that's probably because you went through something in life that is hard for anybody to go through, and that's cancer.
I did. It was actually a great 8 months off from the Marine Corps. If that gives you a baseline of what it's like being 20 years in the Marine Corps,
I'd rather have cancer than be in the Marine Corps.
I
Got
got a
it.
great eight months off.
Oh, man. So, I've had my brushes with cancer with my mom passing away of cancer and things like that. So cancer is very, it's a big, yucky, ugly word kind of thing, but it's amazing to see people that have gone through it and have conquered it. So what was your experience like?
So, having seen the one thing I found out when I found out I had cancer was that nobody's history or nobody's treatment, nobody's story is ever the same. You think, like, oh, you have Hodgkin's lymphoma, let me put you in touch with my buddy. He went through it, or my sister went through it, or my nephew, or whatever. And they want you, they give you all these contacts, thinking it's going to help. And in a way, it does help because it's lethargic to talk to somebody who's been there. But when you start hearing their stories, there's no story that's the same.
Ever, huh?
Ever. I even in the treatment facility down at Balboa, while I was there for 3 hours every 2 weeks for 4 months, getting my injections to go through chemotherapy, even talking to some of the nurses and doctors and the other patients, nobody's story was ever the same. Nobody's experience with the treatment was ever the same. I know that Shannon's position on this is a little bit different than mine because she had to watch me go through it. So she couldn't feel what I was going through. She just saw the effects of it on me. Whereas it's probably because of my time in the Marine Corps, probably just the mentality I have, over 20 years. I look at it as my experience was fairly benign. Our Peyton, our daughter, has a friend who had Hodgkin's lymphoma in high school, and he spent the better part of 2 years going through that, and
Maybe.
touch and go. I mean, on a lot of cases, very bad go with his treatment. Infections, sickness, and stopping the treatment to get him better in one area. So, in perspective, my white blood cell was low, but I never got sick. I felt nauseous, and I would, in a 2-week period, I would go in to get my treatment, I'd be nauseous for 5 days, just rest, get out, maybe walk the dog, maybe get to a point where I could go run on a treadmill at the gym. And then, but as I got towards the end of my treatments, then I was really only having about 2 or 3 good days in that 2-week period, because it was the treatment that was bothering me in the first 5 days, and then I was good for a couple of days, and then it was the anticipation of the treatment coming that made me feel sick again.
Yeah.
And even to this day, if I walk into the clinic to get a follow-up appointment, or I, even talking about it, or smells or tastes or things
Brings
trigger that kind of nausea, that sensation. The radiation was fairly easy. I mean, it was 15 seconds on the table every day for 15 days, I think.
Wow.
And it was right here at Loma Linda. So
That's
because
cool.
because it was so quick, that's the great thing about military TRICARE and the medical system on active duty, is that my treatments, because of the duration, because it was every 2 weeks and it was 3 hours at a time, they wanted me to go to Balboa, which that's fine. I mean, that's not that far. Of course, the commute on the 15 these days sucks, but it's not that bad. But when it was every day for 15 seconds, or I mean, it was really kind of 10 minutes going over there, but because of that, high op-tempo duration, they scheduled me up here, so I didn't have to go all the way down to Balboa. So they made compromise to, for me as the patient.
That's cool.
Which was great.
They were good to us.
Yeah. So that, I mean, the reality, the going back to deployments, though, I had just taken orders before I found out I had cancer to go to Korea, and I had shipped off right after Thanksgiving to Korea to work at a base over there for a year. And I thought that maybe I just had a cold. It just wasn't.
So you felt a symptom, like something's not right.
Well, I just felt sick, but we'd been out the desert. The kids had had a cold, and I just felt like I got over there, and it was, of course, cold in Korea, and I just felt I was just still sick. And then through December, I just kept having a persistent cough, and then into January, so about 6 weeks, I had a persistent cough. And thinking back, at nights, I had some cold sweats and some, night chills, but.
We would Skype when he was there, because he left for Korea with a cold. And I remember saying, oh, you're going to be on the plane sick, which is awful, but you'll get there, it'll be fine. And then we'd Skype while he was there, and I kept hearing him have this cough. And it had been like weeks, and it was still there. And he'd say, I just went for a run, and it's cold. Or he'd always have like a reason for it. But there was something about it. It wasn't a regular cough. It was a different kind of cough. And I told him, go in, please go in.
And just so the audience knows, you actually have a medical background,
yes,
right?
I'm a registered nurse.
Registered nurse. So
Yes.
you kind of have those hunches, or you've been doing it a long time.
Sure, yeah. And so I knew it wasn't regular. It wasn't right. It wasn't normal. Finally.
Yeah, so I had to go up to Seoul for a conference, and while I was up there, I felt worse. But it was also snowing, and I went up with a friend up to the DMZ to check out the demilitarized zone up there, and it started snowing while we were up there. And of course, I was wearing a light jacket, not a heavy jacket. So the next day, I felt just even worse, and I felt hot, and so I went in to get checked out. And I'd been 6 weeks since the cough had started, and so I'm sitting there, and this is an Air Force base, Air Force doctors. I mean, I got to give the doc. I'm not going to beat up on this Air Force captain. I mean, he diagnosed me, which he could have sent me away with nothing but a postnasal drip, which is what he originally diagnosed me with when I walked in. But he's like, but let's be thorough, He's like, I think it's just postnasal drip. Well, let's just get an X-ray to make sure it's not pneumonia. And so he took me in. Yeah, the whole time I was there, it was probably about 5 hours that they had me in this little room, smaller than this one. And he's like, let's go get an X-ray. So okay, let's get an X-ray. So wait, go get the X-ray. Wait some more. Come back. There's something on the X-ray, but the CT scan's open, so I'm just going to get you in. We'll get it checked, make sure that I'm being thorough. Could be pneumonia, could be an infection, but we just want to be very thorough. I'm like, okay, let's go do it.
So no panic is set in or anything like that?
No, I just think maybe, pneumonia or something. All right, that's fine. I can deal with that. There's medicine for that. And so, no idea what was coming next. So we go into the CT scan. I go back in. I'm waiting. That time probably wait about 2 hours. And he walks in and goes, okay, so I think you have Hodgkin's lymphoma.
Just dropped it like that, huh?
Just like that. And we're going to need to start prepping to get you. We don't have any specialists here, but we're going to have to probably figure out where in South Korea we're going to have to get you a specialist. I'm like, stop. Back up. What? That's exactly what I told him. Stop. What did you just say? He's like, Hodgkin's lymphoma. I'm like, that's cancer, right? And he's like, yes.
Oh, yeah, you just couldn't figure out. Jeez.
And I'm like, could it be anything else? And he's like, well, could be an infection, but I don't think so. Okay, so you're telling me I have cancer? And he's like, yeah, yes. I'm like, okay, all right. So in my head, I'm trying to process that, and it's not really sinking in at this point. But at the same time, that very day, Shannon was getting on a flight to New Orleans with her cousin for her cousin's birthday down in New Orleans to party. Because, before Mardi Gras, or leading up to
it was her birthday.
Tuesday, there's a lot of stuff. So it was her birthday. They were going. So I'm trying to process this. I'm like, well, do we really know it's cancer? Because I got to have a follow-up on Monday. So do I really want to bother her with this until... So I sat on it all weekend.
Which probably made it harder for you because you're chewing in your own head.
We talked on that Saturday night.
Yeah.
And my cousin, who I was with, is also a nurse. And I asked him, did you go get your cough checked? Because I was on him every weekend, or all the time I was on him. Yeah. And did you get your cough checked? And he's like, well, I've been, I went and saw a doctor. We'll see. And I go, Sorrel, my cousin, please tell him he needs to figure this out. He's not listening. And the whole time he knew, but he just didn't want to tell me because he didn't want to ruin our weekend.
And there's nothing they could have done about it anyway. So Monday I went in to a different doctor, and they just confirmed the results. So that time they were, once again, like, yeah, we'll see what specialists we can find here in South Korea. And at that point I'm just like, stop. If I have cancer, I'm going back to San Diego. I'm going to go get treated at Balboa, and I'm going to be with my family as I go through this. Well, that's really up to your command. I'm like, exactly, it is up to my command, and that would be me. So
so you're kind of...
I was the executive officer out at the base. So
that's awesome.
I kind of knew where the general would take it, and I knew where my boss was going to go with that. So I found out on the 22nd of January. 27th of January, I was on a plane back to California.
That's cool. So you didn't get any pushback?
Oh, not at all.
That's awesome.
The minute they knew, they tried saying, well, we could send you to Hawaii. And I'm like, guys, my family's near San Diego. Let's just do the obvious and go to San Diego.
Yeah.
And so they got me to Wounded Warrior Battalion, and that's where I was for 8 months, just assigned to Wounded Warrior Battalion, enjoying 8 months away from work while I went through treatments.
And you had a nurse to take care of you.
I had a nurse definitely taking care of me, because the day after my first chemotherapy, we went out to Moab for spring safari out at Moab.
Nice.
Off-roading in the Jeeps. It's a big
I was just there a
Jeep
few
event
months ago.
Isn't it amazing?
It's incredible. It's like a whole other planet.
So fantastic.
She had my mask. She had my IV drips. She had everything.
So you're dialed in, man. No matter.
She hygiened everything for me before I walked in anywhere. It was good. It was a good setup.
That is awesome.
We have a picture of him in the Jeep with his mask on, everything hanging ready to go.
Yeah.
Wow.
It was great. He wanted to go, so we made it happen.
Yeah. How did the mentality that the Marine Corps instills, because Marines have the strongest mindsets that I've ever come across. You have a task, you have an objective, you got to accomplish it, kind of thing. So is that did that frame how you approached the whole cancer journey?
I think so, because when I first met our doctor, she's going through A through X on, what needs to happen, what are the risks, what are the, medical, and my question to the doctor was, when do I get back to work? I need to get to 20. I want to do my retirement. I don't want to be medically separated. I don't want to stay on limited duty a long time. So what is the next step? And I think we fired one doctor because he couldn't answer my question right away.
We did.
And went to a different doctor at Balboa who could speak to that. And like I said, everybody's story is different. I could have taken a turn for the worse and gone 1,000 different ways, but I didn't. And it, grace of God, or healthy living, healthy wife, all the above.
It all plays a factor, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And what were some of the, how did that make you guys grow as a couple? And then what kind of spiritual lessons did you learn through that? Because I know you guys are both believers. Did you get angry at God? Did you get closer to God? Because sometimes people go either way, you know?
I never got angry. I prayed like I never prayed before.
So deepened your prayer life?
For sure. And loads of, so many people praying for him as well. Prayer chains all over the place. And then really just kind of giving it up, right?
You got to surrender at some point.
Yeah,
Huh?
total surrender. Just, okay, you got this. Every day, we're going to take care of him every minute that comes along. And we just did what we had to do to get through it. It was just we just had to get through it. And I knew we'd get through it. We just had to get through it. Let God take care of it. And he did.
I've always, as you grow older, I think you get better at accepting it, that there's only so much you have control over. And whether it's from being in Iraq and Afghanistan or just through life in general, I just accept the fact that this is a bump in the road. There's a reason for it, and whatever that reason may be, it'll lead me to something, and I just accept that. So I never questioned, I never asked why. It was a surprise. I'm like, you're throwing me a loophole here. Wasn't expecting this one, but at the same time, it's you just accept the road you're on and you follow it till its inevitable conclusion. And honestly, I know Shane also hates it when I say it, but had that not happened, certain things right now in my life wouldn't have happened either. So I look at that as just the direction I was supposed to be on to get me to where I am right now. And where I am right now is going to get me on to where I need to be next. And that I'm coming up on retirement from the Marine Corps, and there's a little stress involved with that for both of us, I think, trying to figure out what's next. But every single point in my life where a decision had to be made, a very difficult decision had to be made, I knew that there was a plan, and I would end up exactly where I need to be going forward.
As a couple, I definitely think it brought us closer, to answer your question. Do you think so? I think it did.
I think so.
He said something the other day, I don't remember where we were going, and I think it was in a card or something. You wrote something about being your DD, and it was a joke because I was his chemo driver back and forth to San Diego. That was what it was about, and we just kind of laughed about it. And I thought, well, he's got such a great outlook on it. He was stronger through that than any of us, the girls and I. He was amazing.
Well, and the reason I wanted to ask those specific questions about that is because you're right, cancer affects everybody differently. Some people take that head-on approach like it sounds like you did, and okay, we're going to handle this, we're going to conquer this, and it's going to suck for a little bit, but we're going to push through it. There's other people that go into pity parties, and sometimes that almost signs their death certificate, just because the mentality. Have you heard those lessons where they weren't feeling good and all of a sudden they went to the doctor and you have cancer, and then like a week later they're just down and out kind of thing?
Your attitude can change your trajectory.
Big time, huh? And as a nurse, is that a pretty common thing just across the board as far as healing and health?
I don't think it's scientifically proven. I don't know, but it seems pretty common. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Well, it's about giving up, and if people decide to give up, and then it happens.
Wow.
Yeah. And if they fight it, then I think they have a lot better chance.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I wrote my book, and one of the main themes is everything happens for a reason kind of thing. And, for many years after my mom passed away, I was definitely kind of in a pity party in that hole that I dug for myself because, why would you do this to me kind of thing, right? In a very selfish, I'm 16, 17, 18, 19 years old kind of thing. Mm-hmm. So, of course, when you're a teenager, it's all about you. Yep. But now I look back and, the family that I have, where I'm at in my life now, it wouldn't have happened without all those kind of forks in the road kind of thing that spawned off of her passing. So in some weird way, you know, I really hope when we get to heaven that there's just this big DVR, and he's like, okay, well, here's why this happened.
Yes,
Like,
right.
oh, okay, I get it. And we could see all the threads
Right.
to the tapestry of life. I think it's going to be a beautiful
I
thing.
think so too. I look forward to finding out. I do find there's purpose. There's purpose behind all of it. Even, I mean, I don't believe that, I don't believe God makes bad things happen, but
Right.
I think He helps us to find purpose despite them.
Yep.
You know, so we can grow, or we can learn, or we can serve others. It's amazing what he went through with cancer, what it did for our kids. We kind of vowed as a family after going through that if we ever hear or know of anybody that's going through it, we're gonna be involved, because it's really easy to get scared and not know what to say, so you don't say anything.
Right.
You hear somebody sick, and you know you can pray for them, or you might send flowers or a card, but it's uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the time when people need you to draw near, not separate. So, like we said, Peyton's had a couple friends who've had some close, you know, have suffered with it, and the kids really, all of us, really make a point to reach out.
That's incredible.
Yeah. So there's some purpose behind it.
And it's true, because when my mom was going through it, they played it off for a very long time that, oh, it's nothing, she just doesn't feel good, you know, because they didn't want to scare us kids, my sister and myself, right? So my mom and stepdad, they just didn't talk about it or whatever. So we didn't have that sense of community. And I think maybe that's why Red Tie community means so much to me, is because it is about relationships. It is about the experiences that we share together, you know, the highs and the lows.
Yeah.
But when we go through lows, it's very common, like either people themselves that are going through the low part, you know, I don't want anybody to see me like this kind of thing, right? But I think there's something very beautiful being vulnerable, and then being of service to each other, you know. So that sounds awesome that you guys have kind of spun that into a positive direction, it sounds like.
Yeah, I think so.
I think so too.
I think it was definitely a different learning experience.
Mhm.
Not one I'll go through, hopefully, again. But it definitely grows. I think it helped the kids grow. I remember having to tell them, you know, when I got home. And in fact, we didn't tell them exactly why I was home when I initially got home until after I
everything.
went back through a couple more tests.
Right, you don't want to frighten them prematurely, kind of thing.
Yeah.
We just wanted to have answers, because we knew the questions were going to come as soon as we said it. So we needed to make sure we were armed with answers. And we were. They did good.
Now, kind of shifting gears slightly, you have a background in nursing, but also in hospice.
Yes.
So, and I know
So
you
I
guys...
was covered either way.
You're good, one way or the other. She was going to take care of you to the end. And you know, I don't know. I know how my mind works, so I would probably I'd probably dread too much on the end of things. Maybe that's not a healthy thing, but I have not gone through that yet. But did you have those moments where you're like, if this turns, or are you just like,
Oh, no,
dead,
I
never
never
doubted
even-
that you're going to conquer
Oh, I
this?
never doubted I was going to get
Oh.
through it.
That's
I
awesome.
mean, maybe I foresaw the future. I have no idea. But there wasn't a second that I doubted I wasn't going to get through the treatment.
Yeah.
We caught it early. I didn't doubt it either. We caught it early, and the oncologist was pretty clear, like that he's got as
Great
good
chances.
of a chance of it
That's
as
good.
any. Like, if you're going to have it, this is when to find it, and this is the one to
Doctor-
have.
What's his name again?
Dr. Gable.
Oh, yeah. So for all those vets out there, if you need to go down to hematology oncology at Balboa, ask for Dr. Gable.
Yeah.
Dr. Gable, there's your shout out,
Yeah,
buddy.
Yeah.
that's free press.
Yeah.
He's a phenomenal doctor.
That's awesome.
So.
So with hospice, you see people with cancer that it went the other direction, kind of thing.
Yes.
How long have you been doing hospice, and kind of what is that world like?
I did hospice a while ago. I did it for about 6 years.
Mhm.
And I got out of it because the kids were little. And hospice is something you have to be 100% devoted to. And, you know, I mean, those patients, when they need you, they need you. And it was kind of hard to be able to give 100% to them and give 100% to the kiddos. So it was time to make a change, and I went and wanted to get all my nursing skills back. So I did some other things for a while, but my heart was always with hospice. In fact, I would be at the surgery center and somebody would talk about hospice, and I'd say, oh, I'm a hospice nurse. They'd be like, but you're a recovery room nurse. But really, I'm always a hospice nurse.
At heart, yeah.
Once you are, if you are. So, yeah, so I think it has to do with what you were talking about people kind of shying away when things get rough, when people really need people. And so I think that's why I really wanted to get back into it. So I've been back into it only for a few months now, but I've got about
It's February.
right. 6 years of experience behind me.
Wow. So do you have any stories? I'm sure they're all very personal and
I have amazing stories. The people that we get to meet and that we get to talk to, I talk to World War II pilots and people who survived, the rise of Hitler in Germany, and I mean, people with histories that you couldn't imagine. And when you're in a hospital setting or a clinic setting, you get like 10, 15 minutes, you do your assessment, you move on, you're so busy. And these people have so much to share. So the beauty with what we get to do in hospice is we get to give them our time and sit and listen and meet the most incredible people and hear their history. And they're so happy to be able to tell it because, their families heard it all hundreds of times, mostly.
that wasn't scary.
And so we get to do that. I mean, people that we talked about, I've seen people talk about. We had a little girl one time that talked about going to live with Jesus, even though her family weren't practicing. They were not, of practicing their faith. Saying she's going to live at Jesus's house. I've seen husbands reach for their wives that have passed and say their names. I've seen people who go from fear to smiles during the transition. So that's the end part, and that's it's beautiful, it's sad, and it's beautiful, but there's so much about hospice that people don't understand because I always say it's kind of the buzzkill of any conversation.
It's not a favorite party topic, is it?
No, it's not. They go, "Oh, you're a nurse? What kind of nurse are you?" And I say, "I'm a hospice nurse." They go, "Oh." It definitely stops the conversation.
Yeah,
But
the cheese dip's out. Let me go over there.
Yeah, they don't want to continue. But it's so awesome, and I wish everybody really, really knew. It's not it's not about dying, it's about living. We're all dying, right?
Yeah.
Every one of us. So I could be part of a team that kind of gets to hold somebody's hands for their last days, weeks, months, years. Sometimes we have them for years. And spoil them rotten and bring them joy and help them meet their goals and just give them the best quality of life that they ever had, in their time of being sick prior to coming on hospice. It's rough. And once people kind of make that decision, when they decide they can't have treatment or don't want treatment, and a lot of our patients, they're just older and their family members have gone and they've said, I'm good. I've lived my life. I don't want to go sit in an ER hallway for 2 hours, 3 hours. I don't want to get poked and prodded. Just
let me go.
Let me ride this life out as best I can. And so we do. We give them the tools that they need, and we go to them, and they're so happy. I mean, it's not about us, it's about them, but there's something about the joy you feel when you walk through the door and you see them light up because they're so happy to see you and they know that you're just there for them.
And I'm having gone through that with my mom kind of thing. I think the hospice came like the last week or two.
Yeah, that's
it's kind
rough.
of hard to remember how it all went out. But I remember they brought her in the medical bed and they're just doing anything they can to kind of make her feel better and stuff like that. And then they started, lots of morphine. And so unfortunately she was just kind of losing it at the end there.
Yeah.
But I think there's something so beautiful about death. And I know people don't like talking about death.
Right.
But as a writer, I look at it as here's the end of the story. And there's the two best parts of a book is how you start a book and how you end a book.
Right.
And life is just a story, right? So I think it's beautiful when you could be there and see that transition, however it might be. Do you have any insight or what maybe you believe personally, like what do you think's happening there in that last couple seconds? Is there...
Well, the last couple of seconds, I mean, even like maybe the last hours, last day, patients are usually, they're semi-conscious, Sometimes they wake up, and I always tell families, if you're lucky enough, I mean, I don't say it, but if I notice a patient is towards the very end, but they have this moment of lucidity, I tell them that's a gift because not everybody gets that. So take advantage of it. Tell them how much you love them and it's okay and all the important things, because usually after that, I think they're kind of between here and there. I think they kind of cross over and then they come back.
Tiptoe back?
Yeah, they do. I think it's kind of, it's almost obvious when you're around it and you see it, because they're talking, they're saying names of people who have passed, they smile, they have, there's somebody there that they know that they're talking to. The fear goes away. And there's a lot of anxiety and fear leading up, like those last couple of weeks with your mom. That's a hard time.
Yeah.
And a lot of patients, unfortunately, they come to us late. We get them only with a couple of weeks or even less sometimes, and we don't get the chance to really prepare families and kind of help take away that fear and that anxiety.
Yeah.
So sometimes when it's towards the end and they have that, we treat it, of course. We have medication and lots of social support, social workers, tons of people there, chaplains, everybody to come and help take away that fear. But when they kind of start crossing over, the fear is usually gone. That anxiety kind of seems to just kind of go away. That's ideal. That's our goal. That's what we shoot for.
A peaceful transition.
Absolutely.
Because I think on my tombstone, I want them to say, I moved.
Yeah.
I think Chuck Smith had that on his or something like that. But I think reality, as far as what we see, we think this is reality, but I think reality is just a thin curtain. And I think there's something so much more joyous and beautiful on this other side.
Absolutely.
And it's not somewhere far, far away. I think it's literally just a scrape of...
Yes, it's right here. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And you say the best part of the story is the beginning and the end, and it's the end of the story, but then the sequel is about to start.
That's
right?
cool. I haven't thought about it. I
You're
like
about
that.
to start the next book, because, yeah.
And that goes forever.
Yeah, and that one goes forever.
Yeah.
That's the good book.
Yeah.
That's the bestseller.
And I apologize if the conversation turns so towards death or whatever, but I think as a society, especially in America, we don't talk about it very much. But I think in other cultures they do, or they just they have certain death rituals and things like that. So I think that's why a lot of people are afraid of it, because it's not being talked about.
Right, and it's so normal and it's so natural, and unfortunately sometimes it comes when we're not ready for it, but I would love for us to be able to take the fear out of it, so that when you hear somebody's going through it or approaching it, we're not afraid and we're not making them more afraid, and we could be there for them and reach out to them. I had a patient just the other day, and he was only with us for a couple of days, but I was just kind of preparing the family and getting him ready, and the family member called me afterwards, and I said, okay, are you okay? We're going to send somebody out. And she said, it was beautiful. It was beautiful. And I was like, all right. We did it then. All the family was there holding hands. I've been with families who, all toast and take a shot right after. I mean, it's incredible. And you get to meet the neatest families. It's cool. It's really a good job. It shouldn't be, I wish it didn't have the stigma that it has, because it's a great service.
It truly is a blessing to be there with someone on their last few moments. I mean, it's
an honor.
Think about all the thousands of people that they've come across in their lifetime, and the thousands of things that they've done, and then here you are at the final act, final stage.
Yep.
I think that's powerful. It's amazing.
Totally. Yep, it is.
Man, as it's a very emotional thing. So how do you balance that out when you go back home? I mean, do you ever carry that with you? Like, oh, this was a heavy day, or does she bring that to the house at all, or is she kind of?
Well, yeah. I mean, it's not necessarily so much the events, but it's definitely the workload, right? So in her position as director of nursing, right? So she's not only managing those that are out there doing it, but she's also doing it herself. So she's kind of double loaded, right, on administrative issues and the care issue, and trying to find a balance, and then coming home after a long day to find balance at home.
I'm tired at the end of the day, and that's also why I couldn't do it raising the little kids. But when I'm doing it, I love it. Even though I'm busy, I'm busy. I'm working hard.
There's definitely passion there for it.
Oh, I love it.
She comes home with. She's just tired.
I'm happy.
But is very passionate about it. I mean, I can appreciate that, having, working on average 12 to 15-hour days. I'm very familiar with the concept.
Yeah.
Now, if I could just get rid of the commute between here and Camp Pendleton, that'd be awesome. But
for the record, not all hospice nurses have to work 12 to 15-hour days. I
True.
don't want you to deter anybody from coming into
I'm
hospice.
just talking about that
I do
that
it
dedication to the job,
and
wearing you
here's
down.
and here's the thing too. my company is so cool, and the owner and the administrator there, they're cool with me going to see patients when technically my job is supposed to kind of manage things from inside. I like to get my hands on patients. So yeah, I could pass a lot of that work off, but that's the part that keeps you committed and going. So I'm happy to do the extra.
And that's why I wanted to talk to you guys and bring you guys on the show, is because you guys have so many layers of stories that I think are wide-reaching. You know, there's people that go through cancer, that have been in military, that have been in relationships, blended families, losing a loved one, or being around that. So you guys have just, you know, a lot of layers to the onion of life.
Oh yeah, it's sometimes a little smelly, but it's okay.
Makes your eyes tear.
Sweet onions are good, right? It's a sweet onion.
It's been a wild ride. It's been awesome.
Yeah. No, it's been really
I
good.
wouldn't change anything. Well, I would change your cancer part for sure. I would change that. He says he wouldn't, because he wouldn't be where we are now. But I would deal with
I would have been
where
stuck
we
in
are
Korea
now.
for a whole year, and I
No,
only had
so-
to do 2 months in Korea. That was a benefit.
You're just an optimist.
Oh, I can find silver lining just about anything.
Right?
Yeah, if you look hard enough, it's there.
It's true.
So
Very cool.
See, that's why I answered his second match request. That's why I said yes in DC.
yeah. And then the real first date we were actually on, though, was actually the time I met her dad.
Ooh.
Her dad just happened to be at the house, so I just like to throw that one out there as well. So we went from coffee to going out to dinner to having me meet her dad the first day out the door.
Because he was working on the house, because
Yeah.
I just bought the house,
Mhm.
and it was a
Let's
fixer
just clarify, her dad is a retired cop.
No intimidation there.
Glendora.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
He's so cool, though.
he's a great guy.
So he was giving you the 1,000-yard stare.
Even at in my late 30s, it was intimidating. Yeah.
You're 16 years old all over again.
Oh
huh?
yeah, absolutely. I'll have her back by 9. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
I could barely introduce it. I was 35 something, and I felt like I was 15 again. I
Yeah.
was like, this is my dad. I didn't even want to look him in the eye.
Wow.
I guess that's dads and daughters, I guess.
It doesn't matter how old you are, you're always
Yeah,
daddy's little girl,
right.
huh?
I guess so.
That's awesome.
I guess so.
That was a good time.
Man. Well, any final thoughts or lessons you'd like to share with the Red Tie community?
Let's see. My final thoughts would be to take risks, answer that email, even if you're not so sure. Talk to that person. Reach out to those that might be having a hard time. Don't shy away from them.
I like
Don't
that.
hesitate to do the
And,
background check either. That's always a good thing.
And don't what?
Don't hesitate to do the background
Don't
check either.
hesitate. Yeah.
Especially if you got little kids.
Yes. Always make sure. Yeah. Be safe when you're online dating.
Yeah.
But no, just be good to each other. Pray, have faith, let go, let God, and just be good. Be good to each other.
That's awesome. Well, guys, thank you so much for being on the Red Tie Community Show.
Thanks
You
for
guys
having
have
us.
a lot of layers to the onion of life, a lot of good stories, the relationships, the experiences, sending out the match request, twice.
Oh yeah.
Finally, but hey, your persistency paid off, sir. I think you
I would
scored.
probably give it one more email,
Yeah.
honestly. but
You would have given it one more try?
maybe one more.
3 strikes, you're
Aren't
out.
you glad I didn't make you try again?
Oh, you made me try many times
Okay,
throughout
maybe
our life together.
Thanks for having us, John.
Well, thanks for coming on the show,
Oh,
both
it's
of
been
you.
fun.
Appreciate it. So that's it for this episode of the Red Tie Community Show with the Ball Guy in the Red Tie and Chris and Shannon. Thank you so much. And folks, if you want to be on the show, you have some amazing stories to share, please reach out, because this really is about you guys, experiences, relationships, and the Red Tie community. So that's it for this episode. See you in escrow. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.